Did I properly state? Okay.
What do you think about that, Kathy?
You know, I still think we're 2 weeks delaying getting basic information out, but I guess what Sean is saying about miscommunication out there and making it appear that we're going to make a hasty decision on it. So really, I will adhere to what the committee members decide on this issue.
A word of caution, we need to confirm that the majority of the council can make the 31st if you want to set it. I mean, the committee can't decide for a special council meeting on the 31st, so we find out if the council is available for that date. So we can work on that if that's the request.
Which I guess we'll discuss on the 10th.
Well, I think we prefer to work on that immediately.
Well, I mean, we can shoot emails around and say, hey, you're on 31st, but that's again presuming that line of action is.
We could poll the council about the potential for meeting on the 31st prior to the July 10th meeting. That'll help with your discussion.
I thought staff, I'm sorry, staff had already told us about our availability at the end of the month, I thought.
Not every council member, Pruitt. There was a couple that we just haven't done it thoroughly. For instance, Catherine Ross is, I think, just getting back into town. She was not polled as an example.
So there's no reason we can't pull that. We've done it before.
Right. What we polled the council on was the July 10th meeting date, their availability to discuss these issues that night. That's the one that council had 7 members agreed they could all make it, or at least call in for it.
Due to the number of vacations that council members are often have conflicts with.
I don't think it'll be a problem, so we'll just talk about it on the 10th.
All right, we wait for Big Star Studios?
That's not
next.
Okay. So the next item is we're going to get a briefing from Bob Sturbank and Mark Hoffman on the DEFCO development, the affordable housing.
All right, and with the chair's pleasure, Mark and I are going to tag team on this. I'll come up to the podium. People that work the PowerPoint.
While we're doing this, are there more chairs available? Or anybody that, I know we've got, this is awesome.
There are no other chairs. You can fill in here, folks, if you like.
Can we use some of these?
Everybody on the end can squeeze to the middle. So if you're on either side of it, row, just come in close.
Fuzzy, we have a nice soft chair up here for you.
Sorry.
We got some chairs.
Oh, I'm good.
I've been sitting since 5.
We have 4 chairs up front here in the front row.
We got 4 more over here. If anybody else wants a chair.
But they don't, are they not no. I know, it has no time and we can't.
All right, everyone can see?
Bob, knock the other mic down.
Okay, thanks. So, want to do a couple things here with this. First is to update the council committee on the application. What are we talking about? What kind of development? What are the specific approvals that are being sought? Because there's been some confusion, I think, in the public discussion that I've seen online on those topics. And then also, what's the process? Who decides for which? What steps have we taken so far? When will the public have an opportunity to weigh in? And what's the anticipated timeline? A couple things we're not going to do as part of this. We're not going to substantively evaluate the applications or discuss pros and cons or where they comply with the requirements or where they don't. We're really just trying to lay out what we've got in front of us and how we're going to move forward. And then I think also, as the chair has said, we're not taking public comment this evening and we're not having a public hearing. So I want to do a little bit of background here because the historical context is important. There have been a number of choices made about affordable housing in both SR1 and SR2, and those choices affect the amount of discretion that remains with respect to what kind of housing is to be built on parcel S20. And just so that everyone in the room knows what we're talking about, I think you probably do, but parcel S20 refers to the parcel that is located between the end of Frontier Avenue and the new Snoqualmie Valley Hospital site. So this goes back, as I said, to the very beginning of SR1. The city's previous comprehensive plan, the Snoqualmie Vicinity Comprehensive Plan, as it was referred to back then, had done a survey and disclosed that there were 25% of households in the city of Snoqualmie who spent more than 30% of their income on housing, as compared to 19% for the county as a whole. And so the plan identified as a goal, even then, the development of more affordable housing in Snoqualmie. As part of that, the city and Weyerhaeuser and King County entered into an interlocal agreement, again, prior to the annexation and the development of SR1, that required 30% of all SR1 households to be affordable. And it used sort of a wedding cake or a tiered approach to defining affordability. 30% were to be, 10% of the 30 was to be affordable to households with 80% or less of the King County median income. Another 10% was to be affordable to those earning 80 to 99% of the median, and then 10% affordable to households with incomes that exceeded 100%, going to 120% of the median. At the time, reflecting the importance of affordability, the Planning Commission, when it recommended approval of the SR1 mixed-use final plan, and you'll see that acronym up here, the MUFP, the mixed-use final plan, had a number of findings related to affordability, and those were detailed in the Planning Commission's resolution. And then a condition of the mixed-use final plan itself required compliance with what they call the Affordable Housing Implementation Action Plan, which, if you're looking at any of these documents, are available on the city's website. If you're looking at the SR1 MUFP, it's attachment D11. And that plan required geographic dispersal of that 30% I was talking about a moment ago in the different tiers throughout SR1. Now, a couple hitches with that. The affordability requirement was time limited, so when a new subdivision was approved, there had been a process for identifying, educating and identifying income qualified buyers. The affordable housing was required to be made available only for 90 days after the final subdivision was approved, and if it was a rental unit, for 30 days after the rental, it was first made available for rental inspection. If all of the affordable units were not taken by income qualified folks, they could thereafter be sold or rented to anyone at the affordable price, anyone in the general public. And there was no deed restriction requiring that future conveyances be affordable. And so what that meant was, even if units were sold to folks who qualified for affordable housing, could thereafter be sold for the market price. And my understanding is many were. And so it didn't work very well to get housing in the hands of folks who really needed it. So in 1999, the city and Weyerhaeuser amended the Affordable Housing Implementation Plan to particularly dedicate one parcel for income qualified buyers, and the city subsequently conveyed that to Habitat for Humanity. That's a Koinonia development that is in the Fisher Creek Park neighborhood. And the remaining affordable housing obligation for SR1 was then deemed satisfied by that, as well as by a conveyance from PWI to the city that occurred during the Snoqualmie Preservation Initiative, and that's for another portion of the parcel that's what's called parcel W1. It's adjacent, just more towards the park to Koinonia. And so this was all documented in Resolution 596, which amended the plan. So what happened in SR2? We're talking about parcel S20, of course, that's in SR2. Somewhat similar, but somewhat different experience based on what happened with SR1.
SR20 is the parcel up by the hospital.
Right, parcel S20, again, the parcel between the hospital and the end of Frontier Avenue. So, first of all, the SR2 mixed-use final plan specified some increased development densities on particular specified parcels, including S20. and identified a range of different types of development: garden apartments, townhomes, condos, and multifamily housing. And then set a requirement that affordable housing must be provided, and a minimum of 140 units would be rental, and subject to a 15-year rental covenant that would put limits on how much the rent could be increased each year, so that those rental units would stay affordable. And then this is what you see here, condition 4.12 from the SR2 mixed-use final plan. And unlike SR1, we're talking affordability criteria here, not 100 to 120%, but 80% of median income and below.
Where, can you back up one slide? Where are those 140 units located?
Those 140 units have not been built. Those are the rental units.
In the original plan, they were dispersed.
Correct, and I'm getting, both of you are anticipating upcoming bullets. So the SR2, unlike, didn't count necessarily units, but credits. So it said 15 credits, 15% of the 1,850 units had to be affordable, but that was going to be defined by the level of affordability. So you get credits. If it was 80% and below, that was worth 1 credit per dwelling unit. If it was 60% of median income and below, it was worth 1.5. There's the 15%. And then, as the gentleman just pointed out here, geographic dispersion was still required. And if you were looking at a map, there's the north portion of SR2, which is up near Lake Alice, and then the south, or the larger portion of SR2, which is the south parcel. So that the credits were to be split between those. Multifamily was to be located on at least 2 parcels that were not adjacent to each other. And then the for sale housing was itself supposed to be split among at least 3 different parcels, and then again divided between north and south, and then divided west of Parkway, east of Parkway. And like in SR1, no deed restrictions for the for sale units and time limited only. The only place we saw a covenant was with respect to rental. So what happened? By 2009, the for sale requirement in terms of the minimums had been met. 50 units in on N1 and N2 and 44 units in the south. And even though there weren't any west of the Parkway, the total for sale requirement, a minimum of 92 units had been met and exceeded. So the developer, SR2 LLC, it was called then, it was Quadrant and Murray Franklin, a joint venture, sought a minor modification.
Well, if I could add, the 44 units, I believe, are the ones up at the Goddard School. The Goddard School, the ones on the east side of the parkway. Other ones, like Dallas, where is that?
Okay.
By Goddard School, do you mean outside cottages?
No, the ones up on Hancock.
Off of Jacoby. Okay. So in 2009, the joint venture SR2 sought a minor modification to concentrate the remaining rental obligation just on parcel S20. Why did they do that? From their perspective, the dispersal requirement made it too difficult to achieve the economies of scale. If you split the affordable housing project into 2 smaller ones, made it harder for a developer to make it pencil and to be able to actually build it, especially when there was a rental covenant that was going to be in place that would limit their return on investment. So they asked for the minor modification. In exchange, they offered to record a covenant against the parcel so that the city wouldn't think, oh, we've now limited it to 1 parcel, but then they go ahead and build market rate housing on that and say, ha ha, now there's no more room to build it. They said, city, we will record a covenant that would limit the use of that parcel to affordable housing for 25 years. Now, quick sidebar here, what's a minor modification? When the mixed-use final plan was approved in 2004, it was approved by the council along with the development agreement. And the development agreement had a process that said minor modifications to the plan could be approved by the planning director with the concurrence of the chair of the city council parks and planning committee. This committee's predecessor, the name was changed, and some functions reassigned, but this The council, community and economic development committee is what previously was known as the Parks and Planning Committee. Now, if you're saying to yourself, how can a director approve a modification to the plan? Doesn't council do that? One of the things you have to remember is, although it's called a plan, the mixed-use final plan really functions as a very large project approval. It in itself is a permit more than it is a legislative plan. It had all the environmental review and the mitigation and conditions and payments associated with a project-specific development approval. And so in that, in the development agreement, the council delegated the authority to make minor modifications to the planning director, now Mr. Hoffman, and this committee's chair. And that was consistent with the way the SR1 mixed-use final plan was handled. Although there, the minor modification process was laid out in the plan itself, the SR2 is in the development agreement. So 2009, SR2 LLC requests the minor modification. It was approved in November, and it deleted the requirement that affordable rental housing be dispersed over at least 2 parcels. And the effect of that was to then concentrate it on parcel S20, and consistent with their promise, a condition of approval to the minor mod was added that required them to record a covenant that would restrict parcel S20's use to affordable rental housing development. And that covenant was executed and recorded in 2009, and it will remain in effect by its terms until the entire affordability requirement is satisfied, or no later than 25 years from 2009, which my rough math is 2034.
And Bob, just speaking from a legal perspective, the purpose of the covenant or agreement is not just to protect the city's goals or interests, but it also protects the developer's legal rights and interests. That's what you're describing here. In other words, so that they know that they can plan for a certain use and not have that hold up
It is
and be damaged financially, essentially.
It is part of the overall plan approval that in effect guarantees them a certain amount of return in exchange for all of the costs that they had to bear for building the parkway and the water and sewer and all of the other infrastructure. So I've seen some comments or questions. Well, it's in the plan. Can't we just change the plan and get rid of the affordable housing requirement? And the short answer to that is no. First, as the mayor said, because the development agreement gave the SR2 joint venture the right to proceed and build everything so long as it was in accordance with the conditions of approval, one of which is attachment G, which is the affordable housing plan. Second, eliminating the affordable housing requirements in attachment G is by definition is a major modification. How do we know that? The development agreement, where it lays out a process for minor modification, says a minor modification doesn't include certain things that do X, Y, and Z, and one of those is anything that reduces the affordable housing requirement is a major modification. So what does that mean? Major modification has to go back through a mixed-use final plan approval process to the Planning Commission and the City Council. Those themselves are reviewed in accordance with a slate of criteria that are in the city's adopted code in chapter 1730. And those criteria include requirements for affordable housing, for a range of housing types, densities, and costs, and also to comply with the city's comprehensive plan. And if we take a step back just a second, and remember we're in the sort of the Growth Management Act planning regime, which is you have the comprehensive plan which overlays our code requirements. And the comprehensive plan itself has specific criteria for affordable housing, which call for, to the maximum extent feasible, including affordable housing in any mixed-use final plan. So, short answer, to get to the bottom line, if one wanted to eliminate affordable housing from S20 and from SR2 altogether, the council would essentially have to undo its entire comprehensive plan and code and the SR2 approvals in the mixed-use final plan. Chair, there's a question. I'm not sure if you want me to take audience questions at this juncture.
Well, and it would also not comply with the mandates of the Growth Management Act, but not
that also require, right, the city's comprehensive plan includes affordability requirements because the Growth Management Act directs you to.
You say there's a question? from
There
the
was a
audience.
question from the audience, I'm not sure if you want me to get through, or
Okay.
it's the chair's pleasure.
Yeah, so why don't we get through it, and, I know that Bob and Mark are gonna make themselves available afterward to answer any questions. We have a large group here, and so I wanna be fair to everybody and respect their time, but, if you have questions about it afterward, then, they'll be around.
And hopefully we'll get to your question before we get to the end of the meeting. And we are gonna talk about the DevCo proposal, so bear with me. So we're now to that point, and I'm gonna hand off the microphone
Bob, before you
to.
can answer questions, help me refresh my memory, Mark, maybe you just looking at too. One of the issues that folks I think are feeling like this is a major, not a minor modification, is dispersal issue. But as I recall, parcel S20 was zoned respect for a density of 8 to 16 dwelling units per acre prior to the consolidation taking place. So even if the consolidation had still been, if it was still separate, they simply would have built it even as few as 60 affordable units in parcel S20, and the densities would have allowed up to another, 130.
Mark's gonna talk about what a minor modification is and this proposal.
Okay, so address that.
And again, we're not gonna weigh the proposal here and say it complies or it doesn't comply. That process is yet to come. So we're really just trying to set the stage here for why affordable housing on S20, and then what is the proposal for S20 and what's the process. So with that, I'll give it to Mark.
Thank you. Mark Hoffman, Community Development Director, City of Snoqualmie, for those I haven't met. As Bob stated, the primary purpose tonight is background. And to give you a sense of that, time is short tonight, but there's a lot of material. So if you switch to the website real quick, and then we'll come back to the slides. About 20 years or so of history is compiled on the website. So each of these snippets that Bob went through for background, and then how they apply to this particular application are in these documents. And so if we scroll down towards the bottom after the background, you see a list of these materials. The two that are relevant for my portion are at the top, the notice of application, which went out.
Mark, just wait a pointer on the clipboard.
Thank you. Which started going out a week and a half ago, leading into June 28th, where it appears in the newspaper, posted around town and on the site. That notice of application starts a comment period going into July 16th, where then staff takes those comments, condenses them, analyzes them, and then applies them to the application. And when we go back to the PowerPoint, I'll go through the application. But first, the application package is the second item on there. All the materials are in this document right here. It's 70 pages or so, includes drawings that are small. We have full-size drawings upstairs. After the floor, staff is available, as the chairman stated. Anyone can come in during that comment period and go through those materials with staff. The rest of these documents are the history.
Mark, real quickly, so when does the written comment period end?
Right now, the notice of application went out states Friday, July 16th at 5 p.m. And our preference is email or in writing. There is, and we'll go through this with PowerPoint, this is a type 1 application, there's no public hearing, whereas the CP is, but we'll cover that.
I'm going to correct that date. I believe the 16th is a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I think this 14th is a Friday.
It may be the 14th. It was 2 days prior to that, we extended it to Friday.
So that should be clear.
Yeah.
14th is Friday.
So that would be the date. We're available the next week.
The email is valid, the 16th is still good. The emails are valid, the 16th is still good. Why not?
So,
And it's not hard and fast. We're not trying to cut it off at 5 p.m. and say your comment's no longer valid, but we do need to have some certainty. If it bleeds into Monday, I don't think you're gonna see any issue with it. But at some point, we need to start analyzing, so if it's the 29th. Okay, thank you. So the other documents that were referred to for history are here, the traffic analysis that is currently being done for the application, and a decision later in July. on the minor mod or the CUP. Fair Peers is a city consultant, third-party independent analysis of the documents they give us. These are still in the works, but we put those up there so you can see where we're at. Then you get into some of the historic documentation. This memorandum was from former City Attorney Pat Anderson, very informative to the City Council at that time based on an application from Imagine Housing, complete different project, complete different application, but the same site. That application and project is no longer valid. This Devco Panorama is. The minor modification, mixed use, final plan affordable housing credits explain the remaining affordable housing requirements that this application intends to fulfill. These other documents I won't go into, but they're quite extensive, and I encourage you to read them and or come into staff, and I can show you the highlighted area that pertain to where we're at today. So if we can go back to the PowerPoint. Given all that background, summarized, it is now applied to a project application that we received at the end of May. We found the application complete, which means that we can then send a notice of application and make the public aware that it's in house. That's the date, the July 14th date that's on that notice. At some point after that, we will analyze it and make a decision on parts of the application. There are three main parts. And while I'm doing that, I'll get there. There are three types. Two are what we call a type 1, which are essentially administrative. The third one is conditional use permit. You may have heard the word CUP. All three of those are specific to the request and fully detailed and contain the applicant's analysis in that application material section. So if you want to see what they think and what they applied for those three requests, it's in those materials.
Mark, you gonna be following the PowerPoint presentation? Let's give them a minute to find back where they're at there. Just give them a minute. We'll follow along better.
Here we're still in SR1, now we're in SR2. Attachment G, dispersal. There's minor modification. There we go, that's how they occurred. But this specific application or set of applications is being processed through what's called consolidated review. It consists of three separate requests, but it's processed the same. Each element is a different type. The two of those are what we call type 1. Just for the sake of brevity, those are in the municipal code, more administrative. The type 4 is one that requires a public hearing and a more formal process. In this particular case, conditional use permits are processed by the hearing examiner. And then they meet up through the consolidated process. So these slides are intended to walk you through that. This bullet is important in the sense that the application is not asking to apply apartment or affordable housing to this lot. Those documents in this history have already done that. This is specific to their design. And that covenant that Bob explained limits the use on S20 to this affordable housing apartment use. It cannot be used for retail, single family, or any other use for that time period of the covenant. The three specific approvals that we are reviewing, the first one is a minor modification. That's the type 1. It's a clarification to that existing table. If you go to that table, attachment B, you'll see that there are two columns. One is the range, density, 8 to 16 dwelling units per acre. The other column is based on the footnote at the bottom of the chart, which assumes 30% of the lots in Snoqualmie Ridge are constrained. And then goes back to the table and gives a range up to 159 units. For this particular lot, that footnote needs to be clarified. The applicant contends that the clarification would show that there's more net developable area Therefore, when you multiply it by the range of 8 to 16, you, in this particular case, achieve 191 units within that range. And so that's the clarification for minor modification. That modification goes to the CD committee chairperson and staff. The other ask is for a wall height waiver. In the mixed-use final plan, there are statements that say if you analyze it and are consistent with the mixed-use final plan and the Snoqualmie Ridge development standards, you can request a waiver for some specific findings. Those findings are topography and the nature of the site. This is a greatly sloping site from north to south. In order to achieve a road slope and then place the buildings in such a fashion, it involves some retaining walls higher than 6 feet. So that's what this waiver addresses. The next one is the conditional use permit. This is the type 4 that requires a public hearing with the hearing examiner and is appealable to the city council. So it's different than the first two. This portion is specific to mixed-use final plan standards that say you can do 1, 2, 3 stories by right, but if you propose a 4th or 5th story, you can do it with a conditional use permit. And what that does is it says you can't do it by right, but it also says that it's not allowed. It's just that it's site-specific, and through this process, they will analyze the request and tailor it to that actual site as needed. So the conditional use permit process is written into the mixed-use final plan, and that's the third portion of their collective request.
So the matter of 4 stories would probably only be relevant as to where those footprints are in that slope that goes down very steep. I mean, if it's 4 stories at the top of the hill, that would be very offensive to the homeowners above. But if that 4 stories is down below, then it may have little impact. Would you comment on that?
Mark,
Well,
if you
limited.
two slides.
Look ahead.
Yeah. Two slides. So off.
So the request is for 4 stories. That the paragraph that's 4 or 5 stories, you must request this process. That exact analysis is what we will do for this request. Obviously, the intent.
But that language gets exactly to Councilmember Jean's question, because it lays out some of the considerations for going taller, which is that if it can be built into the slope such that the apparent height when viewed from above is more like 2 or 3. And it's a